Gilchrist is an entrepreneur and spiritual mentor with over 22 years of experience as an entrepreneur and also 12 years as a spiritual mentor. Jen went from being a struggling mom to building a multiple six-figure business, doing what she loves and helping others to do the same. She works with highly sensitive and spiritual entrepreneurs to help them regain confidence and as well trust in themselves and to align with their soul purpose and advance to the next stage of leadership in their business and their life. Her goal is to help clients make a greater impact into the world while achieving more freedom, time, energy, and money in their purpose-driven business. So Jen is multi-talented entrepreneur, and today she is going to focus mainly on some of the tools that she uses in her business, but today we will focus on soul contracts as well as karmic patterns and energy cords and go into and dive into this subject. So Jen, again, so glad that you're here. And if you could tell the audience a little bit about your journey in terms of you stepping into your purpose before we start diving into the subjects.
Absolutely. I always like to say that right now I feel very blessed. I like to say that my life is like a spiritual retreat. And what I mean by that is massage, retreats, mindset visualizations, creativity, meditation, all of those I really consider a part of my everyday work day. For about 6 years in a row, I was fortunate to go swim with hundreds of wild dolphins eye to eye in Hawaii to celebrate my birthday. And it's this balance of divinity and action that I really believe helps me to build my life and sustain my success in a way that feels good. Now, my life is definitely not always as aligned and peaceful. By the age of 30, I was on the idea of like society's version of success, like on this hamster wheel as a single mom. I was self-employed since my 20s, a single mom at my age of 20. But by the age of 30, I had built a six-figure business. I had bought my own home and I had earned a six-figure income doing what I love, but I was just all over the place, right? I was specializing in hair and makeup at the time, doing weddings, networking events, getting my daughter to soccer games. It was just like all the things. And I was just in this perpetual state of exhaustion and overwhelm. And I really felt like life was taking me for a ride and I did not know how to do it differently. I didn't even know there was an option to do it differently. And at the time, wine and chocolate, it was pretty much my way of releasing my stress at the end of the day. And so it's been about 14 years now that my life literally came to a crashing halt. I had been celebrating at my friend's birthday party, had a few glasses of wine. Next thing you know, I'm heading home. I ended up rolling my car, flipping it twice, ending up in a ditch. And it was like, thankfully, nobody was involved else besides me. But my whole, like every single window of my car was broken out. I had to crawl out the window. It was like at this moment, I felt like this was a massive wake-up call that I couldn't keep going on life this way, all frazzled, overwhelmed. And obviously wine as my only stress relief wasn't working for me. So I didn't know what to do. I prayed. I'm like, I just want to be happy and at peace because I felt like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, how do I do life different? So I prayed and my grandfather came to me in a dream and he reminded something of me. He reminded me that there was more to me than just this body. He reminded me that there was all this spiritual support out there, that he was there, and that though I had to go take care of all these turmoils in my life I had created with cycles of unhealthy relationships and, all these things kind of, even though I was making a lot of money, it was kind of going out the other door and I had all these things to deal with, but I wasn't actually alone. And I remember waking up from that dream feeling so much hope and peace in my heart, like I had never felt before. It's like I didn't have all the answers, but I was aware that it was all going to work out. And at that moment, I would say is when synchronicity kicked in, and I probably wouldn't even had the language for it, but all these I felt like this book popped up and that book popped up. And before you know it, I was reading like every self-help book on the shelf you could imagine perpetually. And I was so exciting because all of this awarenesses kind of started clicking in my mind and I started seeing and having this hope of, wow, things could be different. And that was really when I learned I was highly sensitive and empathic. I was 32 and had no idea of what that even meant until this time. And that was a lot of what was resulting in my overwhelm, actually, why I was numbing out. And so at this point, I was kind of on my journey. And as I got through this kind of on my spiritual quest, basically, I started recognizing angels, my intuition opened. And I remember having my first psychic reading. I wasn't even sure if I believed in psychics at the time. Like, well, maybe, my friend had gone and said, you should check this woman out. This is really amazing. She's really good. And so I went there, and in 2 hours, she told me she could describe how I was feeling better than I could articulate myself. And she told me that I'd be doing what she was doing in 5 years. And I'm like, this is cool. I can hear my grandparents and my angels and everything, but I don't know. And she was right. My first iteration of my spiritual business birthed, called Divine Spark Within, in 2011. But it never really took off for a couple of big reasons. And one of them was I did not know, I could not imagine how I was going to talk about this newly awakened psychic healer, past life, angel card reading, energy working self to like my networking family, my family. I was raised in a very conservative upbringing. This is not stuff we talked about. And I'm like, wow. So I really kept things compartmentalized and really afraid of like people's opinions. And then I also was like seriously petrified of public speaking, like so much to the point that I literally convinced all of my high school teachers to let me do all of my oral reports after school. I was like an A honors student. And I was like, I'm not doing this unless you let me do it early, and they'd let me. Or I didn't even join a networking group. Say my name for like 1 minute. Here's who I am and my name. And it's like, I realized that these visibility fears were keeping me hidden and small. Like it was never going to happen. And so after a few years of spinning my wheels, literally, I found myself, I'm like, I'm staking my claim. Next thing you know, I was guided to a conference to attract clients. And next thing you know, they start talking about speaking to grow your business. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, really, God, they has a funny sense of humor, right? And I started arguing with my angels. I don't know if you've ever argued with, your angels or God or however your connection is, but I was like, what are you talking about here? You tricked me. And then I knew better, right? I know when I'm fighting for my fears, when I'm arguing with my angels, I'm really fighting for my fears. So I took myself outside, and they were talking about speaking, and it was a big investment. At the time, I didn't have my mortgage payment. I was definitely living month to month with my bills as a single mom. I didn't have my mortgage in the account in the bank at that moment. And they were talking about this $22,000 business investment to really learn the foundations of business and my biggest fear, speaking. So I'm in this room with like 300 other empaths who are super triggered, trying to figure out, what do we do? We want to do our purpose, but we're scared. But I felt it right. So I took myself outside and I did a TLC body meditation, which I tune into my body. And I know that my mind and my logic will lead me to fear, but my heart and my body will lead me to my intuition, right? And to what's right for me beyond my fears. And so I took myself outside and I got present, and I really got clear that this was my best path. And I know that if I leap in the direction of my purpose, I'm always provided for. And I realized it wasn't really it was about the money, but it wasn't about the money. It's always something else. I was like, what if I don't show up for, like, what if I have to like speak in front of people, or I don't show up and I pay for this? And so once I got clear that my pain of not fulfilling my purpose was bigger than my fear of public speaking and what people's opinion of me was, I left in alignment with my vision. And then now I get to be here supporting, hundreds and thousands really of other people in supporting, moving through their fears and doubts and turning their intuition on and aligning with their purpose so that we can all make a ripple effect of healing and change in the world that we were born to be. So that's my journey.
My God, I love your journey. And it's there's so many things to unfold before we get to talk about soul contracts and how that came into play. But, and this is one thing I tell my clients all the time is, one, you usually get nudges, right? Before you get, for example, in your case, it was an accident that really was a wake-up call. Mm-hmm. And you tell me, how it was for you, but usually you get nudges along the way until the universe said, knock, knock, but really knock. To really wake you up. Is that something, thinking back, did you have nudges along the way that you just completely ignore in terms of getting to your purpose?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, along the way, I was pretty unconscious to the whole concept of nudges and being able to even communicate in this way. So, but in hindsight, yeah, I always believe that's true. We always kind of have these whispers, whisper, whisper, and then it ends up a bang if we don't listen. And it's not that we're being punished, it's just that we've just kind of moved out of alignment with ourselves. And it's kind of this point where we need to have a pattern interrupt, really, to have a new choice to align. And so absolutely agree with you. In hindsight, I can definitely see all those nudges.
Definitely. And then, as you mentioned, the synchronicities that you started to see and acknowledge, which you probably had a few along the way as well. But now that you were open and really aligned, you're able to see those as well. It's just a reminder to people listening as well that if you really pay attention and are really present, which meditation helps do that, to be present, then you can really see the synchronicities and nudges, and maybe don't need the hard lesson to wake you up in that way.
Absolutely.
So that's absolutely beautiful. And also what I love about your journey is, as you mentioned, about getting out of your comfort zone, right? It's when for you was public speaking, it was the same for myself as well. And when you step out of your comfort zone, this is where your growth is and your biggest potential to be in your purpose as well, right? So I love that you're able to do that. And again, encourage everyone listening to do so as well, because this is where you get to learn and meet a bigger version of yourself that you may not be aware of right now that you're capable of. So beautiful.
Absolutely. It's like our dreams, our miracles are always on the other side of the level of fear, right? And so when we can learn how to get really good at just feeling the fear and really acting in alignment with our true heart, with our true desires, then we get to experience life in such a miraculous way, both in our purpose work, but also in just our lives and our relationships, right? We have to be good at navigating that. So I love that you mentioned that as well.
Exactly. That's beautiful. And so as you started on your journey of helping others and coaching and other many tools that you were using, how did you come about to work with soul contracts in karmic patterns? And before we go there, if you can kind of explain what those are for people who are not aware of soul contracts and what they mean and how they can impact us on our soul purpose journey.
Sure. Yeah. And we have many different levels of soul contracts or soul agreements with people, and they can be positive or they can work against us, right? Depending on if they're aligned for us and then that which they're coming in. I think today what we're mostly kind of speaking to is the ones that get in our way and keep us stuck in patterns. And so that's really what I started noticing, is that I didn't understand that, in my experience with, for instance, in relationships, I kept dating somebody and it was not a healthy relationship. And yet every time I, would end that relationship and then I'd find myself in another one, they seemed totally different. And then all of a sudden the same patterns would happen. And so until about 3 times of doing this, I started really recognizing, whoa, what's going on here? I'm really tired of this pattern. And so soul contracts, when they're out of alignment or when they've hit their expiration date, they may have served a purpose that was positive. But if we hold on to things that are no longer really present for us now, it's like a season or a reason. It's definitely the way with these. Or if they're built out of of fear or a wound or an unconscious patterning that's been passed down through our family line or society, right? There's so many core reasons around this, but what they do is they keep us stuck in patterns, looping, that can be very frustrating and disempowering. And we can often end up feeling like a victim or frustrated and stuck and powerless in things. And really, I don't believe that to be true. But when this happens, that's how it will feel, like you're just constantly chasing your tail, wondering, why does this keep happening to me? Until you start to wake up to the awareness, like I did eventually after a few relationships. What's the common denominator? Oh, it's me. Not that I deserved any mistreatment, but why was I entertaining it? Why did I not know my value? And that was really part of my spiritual journey as well, as having to really be honest with myself and have that awareness, because I think awareness is the first key. But that's a bit about how, a little bit about soul contracts and unhealthy agreements.
And with your clients, how do you work through that? So we know we have to work through those patterns and let them go, because of course they're hindering us in our journey. So how do you typically work on that with your clients? So I don't know if you would like to give an example.
Yeah, and there's really 4 steps, like 4 steps that we can kind of zoom out to, because it can be patterns. Soul contracts would be with other people, but we are also talking about karmic patterns too, right? Or where we're using fear as an unhealthy coping mechanism can also be driving these patterns. And so, if we kind of zoom out, if there's anything in our life that we feel like, oh, this is not working, whether it's I'm stuck in a poverty mindset, I keep getting these bills, or why do I keep dating this person, or why am I not being seen by my clients and getting my business out there, right? Anything that's really not happening at a level that feels good, it's important to take that moment of awareness and a pause. So the 4 steps that I kind of walk through is, first, we have to, as the person, have the awareness, right? We have to have the awareness that something's not working for me and I really want it to change, right? And sometimes I think previous to our first dark night of the soul, we may not have the awareness. Then we start to have the awareness. And I love that you brought that in, because moving forward, you likely don't have to go through those big crash and burn moments, or the health crisis, or these big things, when you start to navigate it sooner. So awareness is really key. And then the second step is that willingness, right? Now it's time. It's about self-responsibility. It's that self-responsibility is your point of power, and not blaming the other person or the government or the outside circumstances, but really realizing that, wait a second, I have the awareness, I have a choice, I have the power. So I'm going to take responsibility for my part. And those 2 things are really essential. And then, you start guiding yourself, which can sometimes take a little bit of time. It doesn't have to, but it does take some inner reflection to get to the root of the feeling, or the root of the situation. That's beyond the outside circumstance or story. That's beyond the other person or what's happening, right, to us, that feeling of victim. And instead stepping into like this, zooming out to that spiritual, like that higher perspective, right, of like, what's really going on? Like, what am I actually feeling? What is this actually making me feel? What is at the core of this that is everything to do with me being the common denominator here? I'm not saying we deserve things that are not serving us, but we do want to take our power back and realize, well, what needs to change right here, so that I can now, the 4th step, very important, decide to do something different, have the courage to make a new choice, the decision to make a change, right? And ultimately, these patterns are driven from fear of some kind, or something that's rooted in a wound, or limiting in our self-worth, or something like this, right? And so we have to have the decision to take responsibility, and then really go a little deeper in having the courage to make a new decision that's actually aligned with that higher integrity of who we are. Because if we're honest, we'll look at ourselves and we'll go, wow, I'm actually acting out of alignment with myself and out of integrity with myself on some level. There's a level of self-betrayal when we keep these patterns going out of fear. Right now, how this can look, if we put it into an example, would be, because here's the thing, that next step sometimes creates fear, because it will often be about upholding a boundary, having a conversation with somebody that might be uncomfortable, ruffling some feathers, leaving a job that's not serving, or a relationship that's not serving, right? And so sometimes that final step can be difficult. So it's about having the awareness, the willingness, getting to that core, and then deciding to make a new action that's actually aligned with who you are, right? That is loving to yourself. Does that make sense? So that's kind of like how I look at it. Yeah.
No, totally makes sense. And I was thinking, as you were talking as well, soul contracts, you have, and the way I'm understanding it, if you tell me if I'm wrong here, but if I take, for example, like a relationship, right? So someone may come into your life at a certain point. It could be a soul contract that you had before you incarnated, where this person is here for a season to teach you a specific lesson, right? That will then help you grow to the next stage, for example. Is that something you've seen also in your work? That, that's part of the reason that we have soul contract, is really to help us grow as well?
Yeah, I think that's a huge important aspect, and a really empowering perspective with that. I agree with it, in terms of we always have free will of choice, right? So we have the choice to transform and elevate ourselves. And so the opportunity of transformation and healing ourselves and elevating ourselves into deeper alignment, into deeper self-love, right? Into whatever that is always there in a situation that doesn't feel good, right? And so whether the pattern is being driven from a childhood wound or something from another lifetime that's been carried through that we've been working with for a long time, or through our family lineage, right? Through our genetics, things get passed down as well. And so societal, I mean, there's so many different like cores of these soul contracts that we might have. But I think the idea is that we're all in opportunity of wanting to actually grow from this experience. The problem is when we go into resistance and we stay in blame, we stay in suffering. The sooner that we are willing to have this inner reflection around things, take responsibility, do the healing, and then move out of it. Like things don't have to be stuck as long as we allow them to be. It's just kind of our fear or unwillingness to really, or unawareness to look at it. That's why awareness has to be the first step, right? So it's never about berating ourselves for being in a situation too long, because again, that's self-punishment, right? It's just like, oh, I have the awareness now. I'm going to take my power back. I'm going to investigate here and I'm going to take something new. And then now this whole experience has a silver lining. So all of these relationships, once I did the deeper healing work, wow, look at the silver lining that they gave me. Yeah, it was controlling, it was abusive on many levels. So yeah, nobody deserves that, right? But that was part of my decision as a soul to come in this lifetime to experience the polarity of power, being in your power, being out of power, power over control and not. And so once I got underneath that, what did I gain? I learned how to trust my intuition, because when I was in that relationship, I was being lied to a lot and I wanted him to tell me the truth. And there was all this like drama, but at the end of the day, I wasn't trusting myself. I was wanting validation from somebody else. And so I got to trust my intuition. I got to have a wake up call. I got to speak my truth, right? Part of me, I think as sensitives and empaths and many people in the world, really, we close down our throat chakra because we're in some ways, we're not speaking our truth because we're trying to control the outcome of how somebody reacts, right? I learned growing up in a household with my parents fighting to be quiet. Don't rock the boat, walk on eggshells, don't accidentally say the wrong thing and start an argument. And so that pattern wasn't healed, which resulted in these types of relationships. I became an adult and then I got to learn and have the courage, right? To stand my ground, speak my truth, decide I was worthy of more. And that's when those patterns were then transformed because I was doing that deeper work. And now my self-love has grown, right? My voice is activated. I'm able to speak my truth, right? I don't need somebody else to tell me that what I'm thinking is true. I get to trust my own self. And so there's always opportunity, if we're willing to look at those things, for our own soul's growth. And that is exactly why we came, right? We came to grow and evolve.
Exactly. And from another side also of soul contracts, it's also about, I always say, looking at even my journey of stepping into our purpose and how we also, with our soul contracts, we also have soul contract with our clients. Oh, yeah. So, and that really helps me on my journey. You tell me as well for your journey in terms of even sometimes where, okay, I'm scared of speaking. Okay, let me go through that fear because I have soul clients waiting for me and my wisdom to help them as well, right? And everything that I've learned to package this and help them with all the skills and, wisdom that I've learned through the years. But it's always remembering I have soul clients waiting for me, I need to honor that contract and step into my purpose. And it's always kind of like a GPS for me to help, to help me and push through at times when there's a little bit of resistance. It's the other side as well of the soul contracts and how it could be also in the positive if it can help you also help you and give you that drive to remember that you're here to serve and that you have contracts with your clients. Is that something that you've encountered as well through your work?
Oh, absolutely. I love that. I love that for so many reasons. I think it's such an important thing that we're bringing up the positive aspects too, because absolutely what that does is it helps us know that there's no competition. There's no, we don't have to lack the confidence. We don't have to be perfect. Like all we have to do is have the courage to step into our calling. And yeah, everybody, there's already a whole plethora of people there, or we wouldn't have that calling in our heart. We wouldn't have that purpose coming in, right? So it's about, it really takes that comparison, that imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
needing to be perfect, or just like, hey, there's too many people in this mindset world industry already. There's not enough clients for me. It like takes all that off the table, because it's not even really true, right? As soon as we get over our fear, step into our purpose, everybody will start to be able to show up. They're actually waiting for us to show up. And I love what you said as well, because I do that same thing. We can start to tune into that ahead of time. If you're not clear about your purpose yet, or you're not sure even for content about what to do or what's the next program, I always tune in and ask, tune into the collective energy of those I'm here to serve. And that could just be a simple inspirational post, and it could turn into a whole download for a program, right? That's how I create my content all the time, is by connecting with that energy and asking and reading and really tuning into, how can I be of service today? Takes so much pressure off, right? I love that you acknowledge that part too.
Beautiful. And so, in continuing the conversation with that as well, what about soul gifts, and how can we access them? Because soul gifts are also part of our contracts, right? Gift that we're bringing from the soul to also use in this lifetime in terms of not only just accessing, but fulfilling our purpose. That's what I was looking for. So how can one awaken to this soul gift and access them as well?
I think the most important first essential step is meditation, right? And I know a lot of times, especially if you're busy-minded like I was, and overwhelmed and overstimulated as a sensitive person, that can be something that feels almost impossible. But I promise you, it really is. Even 10 minutes a day of just starting to tune into your body. There's many styles of meditation, but the reason why that's an essential step, and why that's probably the most important thing to start with if you don't have that practice, is because we get to have a clear channel. I believe we all have our intuition and spiritual gifts, right? Our spirit, our soul is eternal. It's part of who we are. And our soul, our human self, really, our intuition is our ability to translate and to communicate with that higher truth of who we are, whether that's your higher self, your soul, which you have, right? So it's that awareness of that communication that is our soul gifts and our intuition. Now, we have many soul gifts, but the basic intuition is really starting to cultivate those soul gifts and practice that muscle. And that can be also with your angels and guides, or God, source, universe, directly, whatever that is, the unseen world. And so when you're in meditation, it's about bringing yourself into the present moment. When you're present and you start to learn how to clear out the static of the world, clear out the busyness of the mind, because when we're worrying about the future, we're actually a little bit into the future with our energy. We're not present. We're worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, most likely expending energy that's unnecessary even, but we're not going to be open to being receptive to the information that is actually all around us, or to see the synchronicities, as you mentioned earlier. Now, when we're ruminating in the past, blame or guilt, or repeating things and wishing we did something different, again, that's futile as well. We can't change that. Right. And so again, our energy is a little bit outside of ourselves. So when you're present in your body, this is why breath work, taking walks in nature, all of that is in present time. And so when you can start to have a practice to slow the mind down and bring your awareness right here, you start to now have a clear channel to be aware of all of the signs that are actually happening all around you to guide you. And so if you don't have that clear space, you probably will miss your intuition trying to speak through you or to you, or the universe sending signs, however you want to look at that. You won't be present enough to see it. And so that's the important first step. Then you can always just start to ask, right? If you have the inclination to want to do that, then I always like to even spend 5 minutes in the morning, ground, breathe. I have my own meditation tools I teach, of course, there's many. And then I like to invite your higher self, invite, if you feel aligned with your guides or God or the universe, whatever you want to just guide you and give you these clear signs that you can easily understand, and start to notice, right? Your intuition will speak to you through signs visually, what you hear, what you feel, ideas that you know, sometimes short, concise action thoughts, right? So you begin to start to open up the conversation, because we have free will of choice. We have to invite that with a conscious decision to bring in that awareness of our gifts, right? And then we got to cultivate it through daily practice. by paying attention to the signs and then starting to act on those signs. And when you start to do that, you'll start to build the confidence that, oh my gosh, that's how I was able to jump into learning my biggest fear and spending $22,000 on a business course I didn't have money for. Because why? I had cultivated the trust that if I leap, I will be able to, I don't have to know how. In fact, the more that we let go of the how, the better off we are. More miracles will happen. We're easy, right? But we have to be able to trust our intuition and know that we will be guided 1 or 2 steps at a time. But if we don't take the 1 or 2 steps, the next one won't follow. And I think a lot of people get stuck wanting to have a sure thing, wanting to have this whole blueprint laid out. It doesn't work that way. But when you cultivate your intuition and you start connecting with your gifts, you start to open up higher potentiality because you're able to just get out of your own way and start to take the steps, be guided. Be internally guided, right? And so, yeah, I think that's how you start to do it. You have to practice that muscle, right?
I love it. Yeah, and I love that you call it a muscle as well, because it is, you are building it. It's not just like going to the gym. You go, once, 3, 4 times, 5 times a day. Some people, a week. Some people, it's every day, but it is a muscle that you're building, and you get so many benefits out of it. So definitely something to cultivate for sure.
Beautiful.
Anything else you'd like to add before? It would be great if the audience get a taste of your work through maybe a meditation. I'll let you decide how you want to drive it. But anything else you would like to add before that?
I just love people to know, I think what made me so excited about my purpose when I first woke up, I was like, oh my gosh, I want everybody to know that you deserve everything you desire and so much more. You are powerful and you are capable. You are capable of creating the life that you desire and that you deserve it. Because I think what I didn't know for a lot of my life was that I didn't have to stay stuck. Like I didn't have to be in that. And so when I woke up and I saw so many people under this cloud of overwhelm or feeling stuck in situations or jobs or relationships that weren't serving their happiness or their higher good, it's because we don't know that. And it's like, you know what? You are powerful. You are a creator and you are supported. And I think when we really start to know that and start to lean into that, it's so exciting to see people be able to step into their power and really create and know that really their dreams are possible. If that and so much more, right? Miracles are meant to be experienced every day because, we have the power, we have the support, and we definitely deserve it. So that's what I want to share.
Thank you so much. Beautifully said. So thank you.
Yes. And yeah, I think a grounding meditation would be great. Let me see here. Yeah, I think just grounding into the present, like bringing our energy and our awareness into the present through a little simple breath work, through a simple meditation that way. And then perhaps we can start to clear any of those fears and doubts that might be showing up with aligning with our path, because those fears and doubts will keep us stuck in our head, And so this is great to really tap into that connection with ourselves, clearing the space, and then aligning with what is it that you want to create next, a simple intention setting, and just clear that path. Sound good?
That sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right. So let's take a moment. And sometimes I like to just rub my hands together, even if you'd like. You could put your hand on your heart, your torso, and just start to slow that mind down by taking some nice, deep cleansing breaths. And exhale. Another nice deep breath in. And exhale. Beautiful. As you start to place your awareness on your body, on your heart, on the rise and fall of your chest, you start to bring your attention into this present moment, which is your point of power. So continue those nice deep breaths, and you can even start to place your awareness on the floor beneath your feet, that connection that we have with our body, with the earth. And if you'd like to connect, if you have that connection with a divine power, you can do that as well. And I do like to invite the presence of my highest self, right? So I like to imagine a simple way to do this. You can just imagine like this golden version of you that's even bigger than your body. Maybe it's twice as big as your body. And this is your highest self. This is your soul. This is your highest potential. And just allow that imagery with your intention, or you can just feel into it as well. That higher self version of you right in front of you, that limitless aspect of you who is wise, who's loving, who's powerful, who knows your calling and your purpose, who came here with a divine vision. And you might even just imagine yourself stepping forward into that highest aspect, that highest truth of who you are. And as you step into this vision of yourself, you start to feel your energy lighten, perhaps, as you start to feel this expansion that moves beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond your everyday life. And you start to expand into this highest potential of who you are and who you came to be. Beautiful. A super simple way is to just have an intention to align with your higher path. You might have a clarity of what that is. You can set an intention if you're working on a particular project, or you have a desire for a business, or perhaps your desire is just to be happy, be happier, right? Just having that intention to align with your highest path and purpose, and keeping that simple. I like to imagine like a yellow brick golden road that just connects between right in front of you, your body, your higher self, and just rolls out in front of you. And you might even see this vision. It could be a beautiful sphere of light. You could keep it simple with that, or you can maybe see yourself speaking or writing a book. If you're aware of what it is that in your heart that you desire to be, you can have that intention as well. Or maybe your intention is to just get to know thyself, right? To get to know your gifts. Beautiful. And so as we start to have this energy present, I'll run some healing energy. If you'd like to receive it, you can say yes in your mind, because a lot of times these fears and doubts, when we start to have these big visions, right? These fears and doubts can creep in. And if you're aware of what they are, you can also just have the intention to, in this expanded truth of who you are, begin to let them drop away. And so I'm going to run some energy now. And the energy is always coming to your higher self. So your higher self gets to choose what's best for you. And just receive that healing vibration. And really this energy that I'm running is called Ground Align Connect Activation. And it's just walking you to that connection between your physical body, your human self, your higher self, and that spiritual alignment with that highest truth of who you are. Really connecting with your energy above and below so that you can be this beacon of light. You can have a clear communication and conversation with yourself, with your divine aspect, and really clear that channel so that you can start to be more easily connected with that, the intuition that is guiding you. And you can even ask for those signs if you would like to invite any spiritual support, and you can, but just ask your higher self to guide you with loud, clear signs you can easily understand, and the confidence and courage to take action on them. And in this field of energy, just even hand over or allow any of those fears and doubts that you might be aware of to drop away, or just simply lean into that embodiment of seeing yourself in the fullest expression of who you are. Beautiful. I'm watching a lot of energy move through the throat. There's a lot around always speaking our truth, sharing our gifts, and having that confidence to know that your message matters, your voice matters, and your truth matters, whatever that might be. Beautiful. Taking another nice deep breath in, you can start to bring your awareness to your body, to your heart, to your breath. You might place your awareness on your feet, wiggle your toes as you start to bring that awareness back to the here and now moment. Taking another nice deep breath in. And when you feel complete, you can open your eyes. Beautiful. Just a subtle shift of energy, right? Sometimes stepping out of that limited version of ourselves or that mental, emotional aspect that sometimes we can get kind of stuck in when we start to really move through our comfort zone, as we spoke to earlier. You know, every time we start to go and set an intention for something higher or really aligning with our higher path and purpose, all of the fears and doubts that pop up. But you know what's beautiful about that is that now we have the awareness of them, and now we can transmute and transform them. When we don't know that they're there, we can't change them. So lean into that, right? It's our resistance that keeps us stuck. And it can be such a simple way to just begin to lift the energy and let them go.
Totally. It was absolutely beautiful. I felt like I was having a spiritual shower, a shower of light, just cleansing. It was very, very cleansing and grounding as well. So thank you.
Beautiful. Yay. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Just wanted, yeah. Sometimes it just feels good. 5 minutes a day of just connecting with yourself like that. Now you set the energy for you to be the CEO of your life and business instead of responding to the demands of the email and the clients and the work and the news. It's like, man, when we take that time to just set our intentions for ourselves, align with ourselves, we actually go through the day much more connected with our synchronicities and with a lot more energy, you know, instead of being in response to all of those responsibilities that can feel overwhelming. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
That was beautiful. Thank you. And so I know, for the audience, you have a beautiful gift as well for this event. Do you want to go a little bit into what the gift is?
Yes. Oh my gosh. If you are interested in this, if you're leaning into this, I think you're going to love this gift. It's a 4-day Amplify Your Clairvoyance, Channeling, and Healing Ability series. It's a powerful masterclass series. It's over 6 hours worth of video training, handout materials, and 4 guided healing activations. So it could definitely easily be a paid mini course, but I pricked this out to everybody as a free offering because I'm so passionate about supporting people. I know how it feels to be stuck or overwhelmed with your sensitivities and gifts. And so the first day, we talk a bit more about how to recognize your intuition, how your intuition speaks to you, how to connect with your spiritual support team, whatever that is for you. And we go through a guided experience so that you can start to recognize the signs and synchronicities so that you can guide your life with more ease. Day 2, we talk about how to avoid overwhelm, especially as a sensitive who absorbs energy and the feelings of everybody around them. And then I activate you with a healing tool that you can use for yourself to clear your energy at any time and really reset, like that beautiful cleansing shower we did today. And we also talk about how recognizing, because awareness is huge for empaths, may not even realize you're taking in and taking on the world. And instead, they end up kind of shutting down and being afraid to be visible or be seen or kind of miss out on life even because they don't want to be in crowds, right? Because it's overwhelming. So we talk all about that. Day 3, we activate your clairvoyance, your third eye, your spiritual truth. Day 4, we talk a bit more about your speaking, your writing, your channeling abilities, like we spoke to, just really connecting with yourself and allowing your higher self to guide your information, your content, your purpose work, because you know all the answers are within you. And when we've listened to these messages from our higher self and our soul, and we allow ourselves to be guided and to trust that process, you are going to just empower so many people. Not only are you empowering yourself when you align with your purpose, but you're actually fulfilling on what it is you came here to do. And you're going to be inspiring a ripple effect throughout the world. So that is my gift to you. I hope you enjoy it. I know you'll find it inspiring.
Definitely. And thank you for your generosity. This is a beautiful mini retreat that each of a person in the audience can take. And like you say, it's also a tool to build the muscle that we talked about earlier as well. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. It's important to bring the spirituality into practicality, right? And when we can do that, magic can happen.
Exactly. Absolutely love it. And so I will be sharing with the audience your website so they know how to work with you if they would like to go further. But also, I know that you have a beautiful community on Facebook. I think it's about 26,000 people now that you have, roughly, or maybe more now. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yes, I love it. In the Facebook group, absolutely. If you're leaning in, especially if you're one who sometimes it can feel like a lonely path, when you're on your own, a lot of times people in your family or in your world or, may not understand these changes you're going through. And so the Soul Inspired Leaders Collective on Facebook is a group I have. It has about a little over 26,000 people now, and they're all people just like you, just like all of the people in your audience, people who are here that are awakening through their spiritual gifts. I offer so much free support in there. And also, it's just a place for you to come and be seen and heard in a safe community where you can share your experiences, ask your questions. I definitely pop in with some different oracle readings and moon circles and fun stuff like that, video trainings, like we talked about today about soul contracts, things like that. So I definitely support the community on a high level, but I think just being in like-minded community that understand your path and where you're going to keep you inspired is such an important and healing aspect of our soul's purpose, for sure. So we'd love to have you there.